Man, that never gets old. And now that I think about it, I have no idea why I never used Stormcaller in Destiny 1. But yeah, within the past month or so, there's been a resurgence of players in the community using the Warlock class in PvP, mainly because of the insane neutral game and forgiveness of Top Tree Dawnblade, which received a buff alongside Bottom Tree Gunslinger and Middle Tree Sunbreaker. But would you believe me if I told you that there was another Warlock subclass of skill tree just as viable as Top Tree Dawnblade for PvP? Well, it is. And in this video, I'm going to give you a breakdown of one of my favorite skill trees for PvP, known as Attunement of Conduction, aka Top Tree Stormcaller. So without further ado, let's get it in. When it comes to deciding what subclass of skill tree will work for me in PvP, I usually pick something that has really good neutral game, as well as the ability to annoy the enemy team. Now, if you aren't familiar with the phrase neutral game, it basically denotes anything that isn't your super or your weapons. So in a nutshell, your neutral game will consist of your melee, grenades, and class ability and character movement, if I'm not mistaken. Stormcaller has always been a fairly viable subclass, even during the Destiny 1 days, and things are no different here in Destiny 2. Let's take a look at each of the ability nodes for this skill path. The bread and butter for the Attunement of Conduction skill tree exists in the form of the two abilities known as Chain Lightning and Arc Web. In a nutshell, both of these abilities create a chain lightning effect that afflicts nearby enemies. Chain Lightning will do this when you strike an opponent with your charged melee, and Arc Web will do this when your enemies are afflicted by your grenades. In my experience, these abilities are very forgiving but incredibly annoying to those on the receiving end. For the longest time, the Warlock class was given a short end of the stick in regards to melee, because if you weren't aware, the Warlock class throws a melee attack significantly slower than Hunters and Titans. So, if you've always been confused as to why you very seldom went and buy some matches with the other two Guardian classes in PvP, that's the reason why. But to alleviate the annoyance of a slower melee, Bungie stated that Warlock melee range would be extended to 5.5 meters from its former 4.5 meter range, and I wanted to see how much this buff would benefit the Chain Lightning melee, since it states in its description that it hits at an extended range. The exotic Warlock Gauntlet's Ophidian aspect grants an extra meter to your melee lunge, meaning that your lunge range increases from 5.5 meters to 6.5 meters. Now I wanted to see if this would receive any benefit from Chain Lightning, and after some testing I figured out that the Ophidian aspect will grant you 6.5 meters of melee lunge range whether your melee is charged or on cooldown. After that, I took the Ophidian aspects off, and with a charge and uncharged melee, I was lunging at 5.5 meters. So in conclusion, the phrasing of hitting at an extended range doesn't apply to lunge, but the Chain Lightning itself, which makes sense, but this isn't the first time that Bungie phrased something very strangely, and the community had to figure out exactly what was going on through gameplay testing. So yeah, only the lightning that chains from one opponent to another when your melee makes contact when an opponent is hitting at extended range. As for Arc Web, this is the ability that makes Top Tree Stormcaller one of the most hated skill trees in the game for PvP. You see, when your grenade damages an opponent, it causes electricity to chain from that opponent to another, and another, and another, and yeah, basically, if you're lucky, you can actually wipe an entire team of 6 with one grenade. Now, I can't count how many annihilation medals in the survival playlist I've gotten with this ability simply because it's that rewarding. And another benefit is that each grenade or melee chain that damages an opponent refunds some of your grenade energy back, so it's entirely possible to kill an opponent with your melee or grenade and have your entire grenade refunded. I really like this ability because my discipline stat is usually somewhere in the 50s, but Arc Web makes it seem like it's so much higher. All 3 Stormcaller grenades receive about the same amount of benefit from Arc Web, but my personal favorite is the Pulse Grenade because it's amazing at locking down areas and making opponents think twice about contesting it. Pulse grenades tick 6 times, so that's 6 opportunities for it to damage your opponent, and the zoning superlatives of pulse grenades are good for taking care of a group of enemies or protecting power ammo spawns, sealing off doorways, or protecting control capture points. Arc bolt grenades are also very effective because from what I've seen, they exhibit a much easier time chaining from one opponent to another compared to the other 2 grenades. However, to offset this, the trajectory of arc bolts is a bit worse than the other 2 Stormcaller grenades, meaning that arc bolts can't travel as far. Storm grenades in certain situations can be very powerful, but they're a bit too random for me, so I usually don't use them. But whichever grenade is best for you is completely subjective, so do some testing to figure out which one you like the most. All in all, Arc Web is a deadly ability, and I've seen multiple situations where somebody would take damage from my grenade, run past their teammates, and inadvertently get them killed as well. Now, Stormcaller is one of the most notable subclasses in the game because it has insane neutral game and an even more insane super, whereas some of the other skill trees and or subclasses excel in one of those 2 categories but lacking the other. Now, the super for Stormcaller is known as Stormtrance, and it's hands down one of the most forgiving supers in the game. I enjoy using Stormtrance due to its overall ease of use factor and its insane multi-kill potential. Enemies damaged by your Emperor Palpatine tickle fingers will chain lightning from one opponent to another, provided that they're within proximity. And unless you're a master escape artist, it's incredibly difficult to get away from somebody using the super because the tickle fingers have very good range. Also, while you're in the super, you have access to an ability ability known as Ionic Blink, which enables you to teleport short distances. In my opinion, this ability is the most important ability of the entire super because not only are you able to close the gap between yourself and opponents, you're also able to juke the life out of enemy guardians and break their ankles. The only issue I have with Ionic Blink is that it has an internal cooldown of around 2 seconds or so, and it isn't as graceful or reliable as the blink ability that Nova Warp has. Nova Warp enables you to blink spam and hunt enemies down, but Ionic Blink requires good timing alongside knowledge of when it's best to use it, because improper use of Ionic Blink can be punishing to the user. That's because using Ionic Blink will take a chunk of your super energy, and it's a very common occurrence for you to use it and be trapped for the entirety of its cooldown. There have been times where I would use Ionic Blink at the worst time or be stuck in the air unable to do anything, then I get picked off by the enemy team. Transcendence is the other node that only affects the super itself and states that if you cast Stormtrance with full melee and grenade energy, your super will last longer and all of your health will recover. To be honest, I have mixed feelings about Transcendence, basically because it forces you to closely monitor your abilities, which is extra attention to detail that the run-of-the-mill player doesn't really have time to do, meaning that Transcendence is situational at best. I would only utilize this ability if I just so happen to be close to my grenade and melee fully charging again, or if I haven't used them at all. Normally Stormtrance lasts about 15.5 seconds or so, but Transcendence extends the super's duration to around 20 seconds. And believe me when I say that, this may not sound like a lot, but it does make a huge difference. It's just up to you if you want to go out of your way to take advantage of it. Because Chain Lightning and Arc Web are such viable and devastating abilities, it is 100% worth hanging on to them just to get a little bit of extra super duration time. That's why I stated for me, Transcendence is something that has to be a just so happen to occur type of instance. In my opinion, the true potential of Transcendence is unlocked via the Warlock exotic helmet known as Crown of Tempest. Via its Conduction Times perk, this helmet decreases the cooldown of your arc abilities and grants extra super duration time, provided that you're getting arc kills. And the abilities granted by this helmet stack with those present on every Stormcaller ability node. For example, remember the grenade energy refund factor of Arc Web? It's possible to have your grenade instantly refunded, like literally all of it, because Conduction Times and Arc Web are working hand in hand to benefit you, but majorly inconvenience the enemy team. Conduction Time stacks up to 3, and unless you're killing enemies with arc abilities, you'll lose the timer. But the cool thing about Conduction Times is that it grants a constant recharge rate increase, provided that the timer is active. This means that it's entirely possible to use your melee and your grenade ability, activate your super, kill opponents with it, and for your abilities to still receive the benefits of the increased cooldown, since super kills count as one of your arc abilities. And thanks to Conduction Times, I've been able to get my super to last for 30 plus seconds before. If you haven't ever used Crown of Tempest, I would highly suggest giving it a spin because it's entirely too amazing to pass up. Oh yeah, one more tip. I also suggest getting your hands on a class item with a solar affinity and another one with an arc affinity. For the solar class item, you'll want to take advantage of the mods known as Bomber and Enhanced Bomber. And for the arc one, you'll want to get your hands on a mod known as Outreach. When casting your class ability, you will get a chunk of your grenade energy back for the Bomber and Enhanced Bomber perks, and the same applies for melee energy when it comes to Outreach. I usually equip one Bomber mod and one Enhanced Bomber mod instead of double enhanced, because equipping one regular Bomber mod and one Enhanced Bomber mod enables you to equip an ability cooldown mod such as Discipline or Strength, because regular Bomber takes only 2 energy and Enhanced Bomber takes 4. Also, I've tested the ability energy returns from double Enhanced Bomber versus one regular Bomber and one Enhanced, and it wasn't that big of a difference to justify double stacking 2 Enhanced Bombers. Also, as far as I'm aware, there isn't an enhanced version of Outreach, so you'll have to stick to using 2 of these mods. But overall, taking advantage of these abilities will get you your melee and grenades back faster, so you can punish the enemy team with Chain Lightning or Arc Web more often. Anyways, that does it for this and everybody. And like I said before, Top Tree Dawnblade is probably the most popular Warlock subclass for PvP right now, but Top Tree Stormcaller is just as good, if not better. But yeah, I really enjoyed putting this guide together. So if you enjoyed what you watched and made it to the end of this video, do me a favor and thumb wrestle that like button until it turns blue. And if you're new to my neck of the woods, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon so you don't ever miss a video of the most elite gaming content. But with that being stated, 1LHD is over and out. Y'all take it easy.